Tell us, who is Apollo Quiboloy and how did he end up wanted by US authorities?
Pastor Apollo Quiboloy,
preacher and the founder of a church called the Kingdom of Jesus Christ.
he was an obscure evangelist from the rural Philippines until 2005, when he announced that God had appointed him Christ on earth.
He calls himself the appointed Son of God and has over 7 million followers all over the world.
The most successful of the world's self-labeled saviors. There is no apocalypse in Quiboloy's message, no rapture or final judgment. Instead, he preaches that he is the model of Christianity.
What kind of woman did he like?
You have to be attractive, and then you have to be obedient.
The official coming of the Son of God was in April 13, 2005.
Kinasuhan ng sex trafficking ng U.S. prosecutor
Apollo Quiboloy surrendered to police for child sex trafficking.
Evangelist accused of human trafficking and sex assault, including in Hawaii, is in custody in the Philippines.
KOJC leader Apollo Quiboloy.
Victims of Pastor Apollo Quiboloy came out to tell their story.
These Asian women who were part of Apollo Quiboloy's Kingdom of Jesus Christ say they were sexually abused by past teenage sexual abuse victims. That they remain pure and intact because they supposedly got intimate with God's Spirit, according to the Philippine National Police.
September 1st, 1985, Davao City, Philippines. Apollo Quiboloy founded a non-Trinitarian church called the Kingdom of Jesus Christ. Quiboloy had previously been involved in the United Pentecostal Church of the Philippines as a pastor. Quiboloy claimed his idea to develop his own ministry originated from revelations from God through his dreams during his time attending a Billy Graham event in South Korea 10 years prior, and decided to leave his former church to develop his own ministry. Kingdom of Jesus Christ had 15 members originally and grew rapidly among the Filipinos, and is reported to have between 3 to 7 million members internationally. The members of the church would refer to Apollo as the appointed Son of God, and their own community as Kingdom Nation. The community of the church believed that salvation was exclusive to its members, and this tactic is how they diverted themselves from mainstream Christianity and recruited future members. Apollo would expand his church by starting a YouTube channel dedicated to his teachings of his church and go on several international television interviews to spread his message.
But healing the sick, the manifestations of Jesus' powers, you're able to do that?
We have healing.
You are
healing and miracles happening.
It's easy to see why this claim resonates in a country where 30 million endure crushing poverty with open hearts. This family lives just down the hill, next to the dump where Pastor Quiboloy's garbage is burned.
If you could be anything in the world, what would you want to be? Go to heaven.
He even created a website dedicated to his teachings sometime in the late 80s to 90s. Pastor Apollo C. Quiboloy is the fiery, uncompromising, and dedicated executive pastor of the 3 million membership of the Kingdom of Jesus Christ, the name above every name International Ministries, whose main headquarters is in Davao City, Philippines, and is spreading with lightning speed across the world. God has entrusted to Pastor Quiboloy in these last days a burning missionary vision, a vision which is empowered by the Lord's compassion for the lost. The website would continue to preach that whoever chose to join his administration will enter in the kingdom of God on earth today and after judgment unto eternity. Under Quiboloy's administration, the church created 2 foundations, Children Joy Foundation and Sunshine Philippines Movement, to accumulate more revenue for the church. The Children Joy Foundation is described as a nonprofit organization that strongly advocates for children's rights and dedicates its effort to help the disadvantaged, neglected, and poor children in the Philippines. The Sunshine Philippines Movement was a part of the Sunshine Media Network International as a way to broadcast the KOJC's teaching on local Davao channels. With the amount of media attention Quiboloy had accumulated, he used it to his advantage to grow his members' dedication to the church and use them to recruit other members worldwide.
Or people would interpret that as I was pulling my own chair, because number one is you have to be attractive. in the pastoral. Why either your inner circle or innermost circle. You have to be attractive, and then you have to be obedient. Like, you don't question whether you understand or not. You don't question. It's called for absolute obedience. And they were people who are absolute obedience to Quiboloy's wishes, and they are trusted to be in the higher position of the ministry because they don't make mistake in the eyes of Quiboloy.
Quiboloy's church was expanded into an entire prayer retreat, which stirred controversy among the Filipino people. Several Filipino families would detail how their family members were recruited into the church and haven't been in contact with them for several years since joining the retreat.
Towards the end of the events, there is encouraging message that whoever want to join and become a full-time worker, it's going to be a great calling. This is the best calling of your life because you're going to be serving the best of the best, which is the Lord Jesus Christ. You stop everything, you leave everything behind, including your family. And my mom didn't even stop me.
Several photos and videos of the KOJC headquarters were incredibly beautiful and captivating, but it was only a front that Quiboloy had put on to reel further victims in. The events that occurred in the church was quite the opposite of the breathtaking views that the KOJC headquarters embodied. During the time Quiboloy had been going on interviews, many international viewers found it distasteful that Quiboloy had essentially been flaunting his funds he accumulated from the church.
To reach 6 million followers with his satellite TV network, numerous publications, private jet, and personal helicopter. All the better to avoid the bumpy road and impoverished villages that lead to the walled compound he calls the Kingdom of Jesus Christ. Here is his 5-bedroom home, surrounded by manicured gardens of imported grass. And like the rest of the kingdom, he's expected to give 10% back to Quiboloy.
This may be the most beautiful spot in the Philippines, and it's paid for by people who live on $2 a day. So how do you justify your lifestyle? I mean, your watch could probably feed 100 families for a month.
If he was an appointed son of God and his church was rapidly growing with thousands of members donating and joining, why didn't he directly address the poverty his members were struggling with? Why did he own a private jet and several real estate properties that allegedly came from the church and made no attempt to give back to his own community? Quiboloy's quick rise to fame proved successful to him at the time, but put him under a spectacle by Filipino and U.S. authorities that had great suspicion of the evangelist's true intentions. One of the first issues Quiboloy encountered with the U.S. law is his alleged illegal smuggling of Filipino citizens into the U.S. and other countries. The pastor allegedly would submit sham marriage licenses to obtain visas into the U.S. to recruit more members into the church and solicit donations that were directly funding Quiboloy's own pockets. The women that helped him obtain these donations were alleged members of the church themselves, and they did this believing they would earn a higher rank within the church. Furthermore, his alleged female recruits had duties of a personal assistant that entailed preparing meals, giving Quiboloy massages, tidying his extensive number of properties, and even engaging in night duty with a pastor. It's even speculated that several of these female assistants were underage and coerced into night duty as a way to bring them closer to God. November 18, 2021, Santa Ana, California, the federal grand jury issued new indictment against Quiboloy for his alleged illegal smuggling schemes involving the CJF Foundation that they were collecting false donations for. When you search up the organization's EIN, it's proven that a good fraction of the funds that came from donations were used for expenses totaling over $70,000 that were never accounted for. The U.S. caught wind of the alleged scheme Quiboloy's administration was running through Marie de Leon, a 72-year-old resident of Los Angeles, California, and owner of Liberty Legal Document Services, who was allegedly in charge of processing the fraudulent marriage licenses and immigration documents for the KOJC workers entering the U.S. The article will go on to detail that the workers who were illegally smuggled into the U.S. had all forms of their identification and passport documents confiscated and were forced to work long hours soliciting money from strangers to fund the church. This is backed by several accounts, including Ana Santos, that reported while she was out on a business trip, she was approached by one of the members that came from the church trying to solicit her for donations.
Of his alleged victims, what was that like? Tell us about that.
I was on assignment in the Middle East and Qatar at the time, and I was covering labor migration issues when a child had come up to me and started speaking to me in Filipino, asking me for money. So it was a little surreal. I was overseas and I said, do I hear Filipino? And the person that I was interviewing was from a rights group, a migrant rights group. And he said, yeah, that's a Filipino. And those are the children that are being brought over by Quiboloy to beg for money. And the money is funneled back to him.
As mentioned several times previously, this is all alleged and speculations, but the compelling amount of victim testimonials made it difficult for the Philippines government to ignore. Quiboloy would make a response regarding the recent uproar of FBI involvement.
Sinosurveillance ako dito sa Pilipinas ng CIA at ng FBI. Sarili kong bansa, ako po ay nagtatago sapagkat liligwakin ako ng ganun-ganun na lang. Walang extradition process na gagawin. Dumating po sa aming kaalaman sa mga sandaling ito from reliable sources. Correct me if I am wrong, but these are reliable sources na dumating sa akin na ayaw na raw po nila ng extradition treaty. Ang kanila daw pong gagawin ng CIA, ng FBI, ng US Embassy at State Department kasabwat ng ating gobyerno, ng Pangulong Marcos at ng First Lady at kung sino pa man ang nasa gobyerno, ako ay rendition ng kanilang gagawin. Ang rendition, ang ibig sabihin po, anumang oras pwede lang pasukin ang aking compound at ako ay kidnapin. It's not only rendition but also elimination. If it is possible, pwede nila akong i-assassinate.
The pastor would make an official statement claiming he's under high watch by the US and Philippines government, and even making a strong claim that he has an alleged bounty on him and the possibility of rendition. Of course, the FBI would shut down these claims and deny any truth to them. There was an active warrant out for Quiboloy's arrest in the US, but there wasn't a reward being offered. Quiboloy avoided detection by the US government due to his connections with former President Rodrigo Duterte, who would have been responsible for reinforcing the extradition treaty and his extensive connection to political figures. December 11, 2023, the Senate of the Philippines will launch an investigation into the pastor's alleged trafficking rings that he was running. With the weighing pressure of the US and Philippines government, the support of Quiboloy's political backing would eventually weaken, causing him to go into hiding until things cooled off. The US government's main concern was that Quiboloy was using the country as a main hub to capture US citizens and bring them back into the Filipino church. In January of 2023, Duterte resumed hosting his weekly show Gikan sa Masa para sa Masa and had Quiboloy on as a co-host, where they would have discussions involving the political state of the Philippines. On June 30, 2022, Ferdinand Marcos Jr. was elected president of the Philippines, which further weakened Quiboloy's political impact on the country. The Philippines had gained a new leader, and Duterte no longer had presidential power over the Philippines. The working of the Philippines government were no longer in Quiboloy's favor, and the Senate of the Philippines pursued their investigation into the church over a year later. August 24, 2024, a manhunt ensued, and over 2,000 police officers were deployed in the Davao compound to search for the church's leader. Quiboloy and his associates were were issued an ultimatum to surrender and complied 4 hours later after being instructed by his lawyer. Since Quiboloy's arrest in early September of 2024, many victims have spoken out about their experiences with the leader and how the teachings of Christianity quickly became a horrific cult of embezzlement and coercion. Hi, so a few things I wanted to mention about this case is, again, everything is all alleged and this case is still ongoing. I am not going to play detective. The police are already getting into that, so please don't put a bounty on me. But also, how the police arrested Quiboloy is they suspected he had an underground bunker underneath one of the KOJC's complexes, and they ended up finding him with a massive underground bed bunkers for the members, I presume, and he was hiding there. And also, I want to point out that I know I mentioned that Apollo Quiboloy was kind of on hideout from the US government, and then I immediately cut to him being on a TV show with Duterte. Well, it doesn't make sense to me either, but I just wanted clarification for that. And there was a lack of animations in this video for obvious reasons. You know, I don't want to animate something this graphic, so I still tried to incorporate animations, but not to the point where it's insensitive, if that makes sense. So yeah.